All right, good evening. I am going to go ahead and share my screen for the formalities here. So good evening, everybody. Can you see that? The welcome? Yeah. So this is the subcommittee meeting of the Garbage and Recycling Advisory Committee for Washington County. It's August 5th, 2021, and we are getting started. Couple webinar logistics. Everyone should have be connected via audio broadcast upon entering the webinar. You do not need to call in and you are automatically muted. The meeting will be recorded and posted to the Washington County website we'll shoot for a week after the recording. If you have trouble with any aspect of the broadcast, there's a support link for Zoom, or go ahead and raise your hand. This is a subcommittee meeting where there's not a identified public comment period. We do have a few folks in our attendee pool. Oh, I just seen more. Not Ken. A few folks in our attendee pool. If you have any specific questions, you can raise your hand and we can chat with you, but this is more of a conversation just for the subcommittee to kind of get its work going. So that ends my formalities and I've stopped screen sharing. So there we go. All right, so thanks Vinod and Sandra for volunteering to work on this with us. Trying to think about what the subcommittee will do. And I think Vinod, you suggested we kind of maybe just try to lay out the agenda and build a kind of a framework for how we want to carry out the work here and how we want to bring it back to the larger Garbage and Recycling Advisory Committee. And we can obviously have Ken, we'll make sure Ken joins us for the next conversation when we start gnawing on the meat a little bit more after we've kind of thought through a little framework. So a couple things I'll just bring you guys up to speed. We did have a work session with the Board of Commissioners this last Tuesday, yeah, just this week. And we gave the board an update on the conversation to this point. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a recording on the county's YouTube page, so you can go watch it. It was just kind of an update that brought them up to speed on this date and highlighted the role of the Garbage and Recycling Advisory Committee. And the key to this conversation is really the county code and the exemption request that was made by Ridwell. And the county code in that it requires the Garbage and Recycling Advisory Committee to make a favorable recommendation for the board to act on the exemption request. So our understanding from our council is that if the GRAC makes no recommendation, or if the GRAC makes an unfavorable recommendation, then the board doesn't even act on the exemption request. The board only acts on the exemption request upon a favorable recommendation from the advisory committee. And so then the code also says, I'm going to read it so I don't butcher it. Should open this up for meeting.
Hey Tom, so you said, so if the GRAC doesn't vote favorably, it won't even go back to the board?
The exemption request does not go back to the board if the GRAC does not vote favorably.
Okay.
So it's interesting. It's a lot, puts a lot of impetus on this consideration and review of the committee. And that's based on the code language. So here is a slide from the presentation that we gave to the board this Tuesday, and this is really the charge and review. And I think one of the things that I think has been challenging in this conversation is trying to really hone in on this question. And we need to focus on this question because this is the question the code is asking us. And that question here is, I've shared the screen. Can you see it? Yeah. No? Yeah. Okay. The question, so the code language is basically says, exempted by the board after receipt of a recommendation of the advisory committee on the basis of findings made after public hearing that the same is not necessary to the implementation of the county or a regional solid waste management plan. So the exemption request is really based on this very specific question, and that is the practice of collecting certain hard to recycle wastes necessary for the implementation of the county or regional solid waste management plan. That's the charge that the committee has. Our takeaway from the last meeting and what we shared with the board was that the subcommittee would be formed to further study the issue And then there was some interest in reviewing the regional waste plan in more detail. And then also there was a lot of discussion about exploring potential conditions of exemption or even maybe recommending some other form of interim regulation or like a registration regulation, which might be a little bit beyond the scope of the question and charge. It doesn't mean that the advisory committee can't come back later and say, we recommend this is how you deal with the issue. But in regards to the exemption request, we have to almost look at it like an application or a specific request made of the committee, and we have to answer that specific question before we can move beyond that into different discussions. And then we are also, the county council is also of the opinion that we need to answer this question before we can start exploring alternative solutions and scenarios, because this question is really the crux of the next steps forward. So if the answer is it's out, that changes how programs look if we work with the solid waste collectors. If the answer is the question's in, that changes how programs look if we work with the solid waste collectors. So that doesn't mean we can't advise on that and talk about that in the future, but we have to answer this first question first and then provide that recommendation up to the board. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I think that's challenging. I know, I think that's what we've struggled with in really trying to hone in on that question and issue. And I don't, it's code language that I understand has been there since 1969. So what does it really mean? It's worded strangely. It's like a double negative, but trying to understand what it means is, I think, and how the plans that we have apply to the situation is what we need to try to unpack.
Hey, Tom, I know we have 3 open positions on our committee. Have any of them been filled yet? Just
No,
curious.
so we have,
I knew we had some applicants.
we had 2 applicants, and just as of last week, I think we got a 3rd. And we just did some push for recruitment with some newsletters, and the Board of Commissioners adopted like a proclamation or announcement that there's vacancies. So our community engagement office has done some recruitment pushes, and we just got a couple plugs from people interested in wanting more information and links. So we're going to let that play out, and hopefully we'll have some more than 3 applicants for the 3 positions. We would like to have some options for the board to consider versus like, we had 3 opens, here's 3 applicants. So hopefully it will be not too much longer.
And hopefully we'll have new members that will help vote on this possibly.
Well,
too.
it depends on how fast and how much time it takes for us to work through the question for the subcommittee to think about it.
So I have a question about that, because if you get somebody in too quick, they're not going to have any of the background on this. So it's kind of a
it's kind of a double-edged. It's challenging. Yeah. I think it would be challenging to dive into the middle of it. Yeah.
Well, I don't know where you want to start, but I think one thing we referred to was we want to kind of see where it fits into
that big guy.
Big guy. So I mean, I was kind of flicking through it a little bit and just seeing where I thought maybe it matched up or didn't match up. I don't know if that's something we want to explore when we get Ken.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, Sandra, how much are you familiar with the regional waste plan?
I know
studied
about it. I
You
didn't
know about it?
think through it. If I remember correctly, this isn't even to come to fruition until like 2025 or even later.
Well, it's a 2030 plan,
Yeah,
but it was
something like that.
adopted in 2018.
So things that come out of there may take several years, whereas
Absolutely,
if we
yeah.
can vote on something now and get something going. I mean, if everything worked out and we had voted on this months ago and everybody was like on agreement, then all the haulers and Ridwell could be doing their business. I don't see why it's not a win-win right there, but, and the people would have their boutique recycling.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I mean,
It's
No,
been drug out, and Ken is the one who wanted to call this, so.
and then he's not
I
here.
mean, I have no problem, I'm ready to go, but
Yeah.
he wants something more that I'm not exactly sure why we're going so hard into this race plan and see if it conflicts or not. Because when these things actually get implemented, we can always say, hey, this is the race plan now. Ask for this, you guys have to see what you're doing or keep doing it or,
Yeah, I mean, so the reason we have to dig into the waste plan is because that's the charge. So that's what the code is basing, who needs to base the decision on. So whatever the decision is, it should be accompanied by findings. And those findings need to relate to whether or not it's something like this is necessary to the implementation of the regional waste plan. So that's the crux of it, really. And that puts the regional waste plan at the center of this. And I think, like you said, not trying to work through the regional waste plan and learn more about it is going to be critical, I think, for us. And I guess one question I would have is that something that you think that we should work through as a subcommittee of 3.5, or is that something that we should organize and kind of plan the process through and take it to the whole advisory committee to do some work on the regional waste plan? And I think about that in terms of, do we want Metro to come like share information about the regional waste plan and talk about the how it was developed and highlight overviews of it?
it's gonna be dragging this out for months.
Well, I think we want to make a good decision on something that could fundamentally change how things work, and maybe even open a Pandora's box of exemptions for everybody driving around picking up whatever they want. So
Well, we can
that'd be
also
my,
add the, what do you call it, the guardrails or whatever.
The conditions, I think that's another,
Conditions for Ridwell, and maybe as more come in, they have to go through us, or I don't know.
well, once the door's open, it's open. That's my understanding, right, John? That once an exemption is made for this process, anybody can slap a magnet on their truck and say, I'm going to start picking up
if
Hard
soda
to
cans.
recycle items.
if they meet all of, if there's exemption conditions and they meet all exemption conditions, essentially, yes. I mean, you can't just, I don't know, could you exempt one business? I don't know if you'd want to. At that point, you might as well be looking at, it's like a franchising it in a sense, right? So I think it's either an exemption is, and Ridwell has asked for, the Ridwell's request from the county is an exemption, not for them, but for the practice. So yeah, you're right. Anybody that does the practice of the exemption request and meets any conditions of an exemption.
It's not like there's 100 businesses waiting to fly on in here. If anything, there's 2. And one's already getting away with it by having these monthly or one-off events, which I think is kind of
The
fun.
collection events, yeah, those are a little bit different, but yeah.
But it's working.
Yeah, and Ridwell anybody could do collection events, so really.
Yeah, they're pretty
Taking away
specific.
business.
I have more knowledge about the other one we're talking about that
James,
they're very
recycling?
careful. Yeah, they're very careful about trying to work within the system and not outside of it, or they want to cooperate a lot. So
I
Thanks for
would
this radio
totally
debate.
support that. I mean, the more
Yeah.
recycling, the better in my book.
Yeah, so how do you two think that we should work to better understand the regional waste plan? I mean, Vinod, you probably have a pretty good grasp of it. Sandra, do you, or Vinod, do you think you could benefit from talking with Metro and we can invite Metro in to have a conversation and a dialogue with them, or?
I think it would be good because they're in the middle of this too. So it might be good to have them say, hey, I think that we should maybe hit some of the goals and values in here. And then you also have, Metro can come in and say, this is where we think the intersections are. Cause I know they're looking at, I heard that they're looking at licensing the facilities similar to our facilities. So.
Yeah. And we have to be,
Facilities.
we can't put Metro in the position to kind of answer the question for us.
Yeah,
We just
no,
need to
I
ask them information, right? Yeah. Yeah.
You mean they're gonna license the storage or collection facilities, right? So
Yeah,
There's none
we're-
in Washington County, we wouldn't have to do that. I think
No.
right now both of these are in Multnomah County.
Yeah. And even if it was in Washington County, the county doesn't regulate
Oh, it's Metro.
recycling facilities. So like Far West Recycling, for example, doesn't have any, we don't have any if it's in Hillsborough, but if it wasn't unincorporated, we still wouldn't have any regulatory.
So we have a
relationship with
Metro
it.
license that has basically, that we meet certain standards and have certain protocols in place. So
Yeah. Okay, what do you think, do you think that conversation with Metro happens with the subcommittee, or do you think it should happen with the whole committee?
Whole committee, in my opinion, because otherwise I mean, if you can, I don't know, I can be flexible on it either way.
Me too.
I think the one concern is that, well, I guess you take good notes, so you'd be able to carry it forward. I don't take very good notes, so I just want to make sure we carry the message, we get our questions answered, and then, and it's open to everybody. I mean, you send it to every committee member, so in theory they could be here also if they want to hear it. So
Yeah.
Maybe just do that.
Okay. That makes sense. And it doesn't have to be on doesn't necessarily have to be on one of the second Thursdays.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking when you talk about the whole group, because we could pull one together next week or something.
Okay. So I propose that. So I think there's two big bodies of work here, and the first one is the regional waste plan, and the second one is exploring conditions and ideas. Right. I think this is similar to what I was saying earlier. I think we need to tackle the regional waste plan first, because conditions are irrelevant if we feel that the regional waste plan doesn't necessarily lead us here. Does that sound accurate, or is that different? You guys think about that differently?
Sandra?
Are we just looking for something inside the regional waste plan that says that we will be doing boutique recycling of hard to recycle items by a certain date or something, and nobody else but haulers can do it?
No, I mean, if it was that straightforward, we would have gotten there already. So I
think I'm not going to find much, but maybe.
I think the regional waste plan has lots of things in it, and it's a big document. The letter that the attorney for the Washington County Haulers Association shared with us before the last meeting had an approach where they were looking at a series of goals or objectives in the regional waste plan and trying to argue that those imply that the system should be kept. It should be kept in the system. And staff, obviously, we provided some oversight or some review and analysis, and we didn't see that in there. So I think there's different ways to look at it. So I think what we need to do is identify like Vinod, you kind of suggested, identify the areas where we think this might impact the regional waste plan's outcomes.
Yeah, and you don't have, Sandra, you don't have to read the whole 150 pages. There's a section, and I think things in the were mentioned the last time, and that there's an opportunity for everybody to have this thing. Are you applying equity through a system, which is the big part of the whole plan? And so
throughout the region or throughout the state, because the state's doing something similar.
Yeah, but this is the regional plan is what this one's about.
So when we talk about equity, what comes to my mind? Compost recycling that we don't have and everybody else has.
Oh, food scraps?
Food scraps, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a separate question.
That's I mean, there's an equity all over the place.
Yeah.
My mom doesn't have a yard debris recycling, but she lives in Jefferson County. The city of Bend also does not do yard debris, but that's outside the region. But there's inequity all over the state.
Well, and equity is not equality.
Yeah.
And so everybody getting access to something is not equity. I mean, we're working through that, like with our garbage rates right now. We're doing a low income or more equitable rate structure study with Marina, and if everybody getting the same was equity, we would be pegging it with garbage rates right now, because if you have a 32-gallon can, it doesn't matter where you live, you pay the same.
Oh, yeah.
But the questions come up about low income users of the system. Are they paying the same as high income users of the system? And the answer is yes right now. And is that equity? And I would say you can't really say that's equity. So, but how do you apply that into the system is a challenging concept too. So in this situation, I don't know what that means either. It doesn't mean only serving high income dense communities and not serving low income less dense communities. But it doesn't also mean that everybody gets it by definition, in a sense.
Most of what they take, you have the opportunity to take those products to the different businesses yourself.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
batteries,
Say everything, right?
Netflix. So the equity thing is a little vague there for me. Sure, I mean, you have to pay if you want them to come to your doorstep.
The cost is an equity piece.
Available where it's available.
Where it's available, how much it costs,
Mhm.
whether they can afford it. Yeah.
Well, if the exemption's done, then all the haulers can offer it and it's everywhere, right?
Well, if they choose to. If it's exempt, maybe
Want to.
one hauler chooses to and 8 don't, and then there's no consistency there if it's not part of the system, right? But that's the thing, the open market
Like,
is
that's not what they're
that,
wanting.
it's an open market, so there's no. I think that's a big part of it. So I think thinking about the regional waste plan and thinking about that is important too. And
So do we want that to be our first step then is see when we could get somebody from Metro and give us kind of that high look. These are what are important to this regional waste plan.
yeah, maybe just kind of work through the values and principles and then the kind of goal areas. And I think it'd be important for us all to kind of do what you've started to do. Sounds like Vinod, really kind of read through it and try to pull out
Yeah, it was more
sections and
cramming.
concepts.
It was more cramming than that. It was like I've dug it out and then been kind of looking through it a little bit when I had time. So I haven't, like I said, I haven't studied it, but I have. That's where I was looking at the values and goals and things.
Yeah. Okay, and so I guess another question I would have then is what, so conditions we're gonna hold. What cadence, how frequently do you think we should meet?
Well, we want to move it along, right? So I don't want to spend it that many evenings, but I could do maybe like once a week or something. And hopefully once we get our hands around it, we'll have a better, we'll be able to move quicker. We'll have, some
Yeah.
sort of, we'll find more, common areas on what works and what doesn't work, or, what are unintended consequences versus benefits.
Sandra, is weekly reasonable for you?
Yeah, if we all can be able to agree on a day every
Yeah,
week.
do you think that's a day every week so it doesn't bounce around? Is there a day of the week that's best for you?
Well, next Thursday was gonna be tough. Because I have an appointment downtown at 4.
Is there generally a day of the week that works best for you guys?
I don't, yeah, it's pretty open for me in the early evening.
Me too.
I probably shouldn't admit that, but
Wednesday,
I think Wednesday's okay.
okay.
Now we gotta make sure Ken can do it.
Yeah, I know, we need Ken. He was, like you said, he is kind of the driver of this, of getting.
yeah,
us
he was
here,
the one that
so.
said this date worked for him.
So he's gonna be an important part of this, so. Okay,
Wednesday's good.
so what do you want me to be prepared to do next Wednesday?
So do we want to see if we can get, I don't know who the best person at Metro is, Rosalind maybe, or I don't know.
I have someone in, Warren, I know you're in
Oh,
the
yeah,
attendee
that's-
pool. Do you mind if we ask you who you think would be a good person at Metro?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. This is Warren Johnson.
Hi.
My pronouns are he, him, and I'm with Metro. I'm in the compliance and standards group. Yeah, that's a good question. I was thinking about that. I can, I'll ask around internally to see who might be the most appropriate to come and speak. I would think initially maybe Holly Stringthorpe might be a good one. She's working on the work plan the regional waste plan. So she might be a good person to bring in. I'd like to loop in with her and find out more about her availability and see if she's able to do that.
Great. Can you consider this us asking Metro? So I don't have to
Yes.
email afterwards. Okay.
I will happily find that out for you and email you, Tom.
Thank you, Warren.
Thanks, Warren.
Thank you.
Okay, so next week we'll see if we can get Metro, potentially Holly. Warren will find the right person, and we'll kind of start at the high level kind of overview of the regional waste plan. In the meantime, I think it would be helpful to kind of take a look yourself at it and kind of dig into it and try to highlight areas where you think there is some level of relationship, in a sense, to the concept or the decision.
Is it online somewhere?
Yes.
Mhm.
Kathy sent a link.
That's what I thought. I'm sitting there going through my emails looking for it.
I'll send you another link right now, Sandra.
'Cause I saw it somewhere.
All right, I sent you a link.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay, is there anything else you guys think we should do in the meantime, or that you think staff should be working on, looking into or investigating to help answer the question, or do we really need to start at the regional waste plan high level?
Well, I think that's what we were talking about, right? So that was at the last meeting we did. It was where does it really fit in?
Yeah. Okay.
We can discuss what your team found when we met the last time.
Yeah, we can talk about those.
So I know where to go.
Yep. Kathy won't be back next week, but we can talk through it.
If we need to push it out for schedules, I mean, that's understandable because we're sort of winging it.
Yeah, no, I think it's okay. I would like to move because I don't think, it's going to serve anybody for us to spend a lot of time spinning around on it either. So let's see if we can get Metro to join us and Ken to join us on Wednesday. And if that works, we'll do it. And if not, we'll just keep in contact and schedule another alternative time.
Okay.
All right. It's a simple question. It's pretty funny because it's a pretty simple question, but it's a big question.
Yeah, well, it drives it kind of makes a whole, like I said last time, it seems like everything we worked on 582 and everything that, the plan is all more structure and more, more confines on the system and more reporting. And so to me, it sort of felt like you're making an exemption to something you said for years you want more of. And so anyway.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I hear where you're coming from. Okay, I guess we feel good and we're ready to call it and then come back next Wednesday. I'll try to organize with Metro and I will try to get something confirmed by tomorrow afternoon or Monday afternoon at the latest, if that works.
Okay.
Yeah. And in the meantime, please reach out to me if you have any questions or suggestions. I don't really know how to structure this either, and I hope we can do this collaboratively because, like I said, it's kind of charting new territory for me too in terms of how we want to kind of to focus in on the question and try to answer it.
And I did see part of the YouTube, so I heard some of like Harrington's comments, and it seemed like it's just not part of your presentation, but it was on in the background today when I was doing some other stuff.
From the work session this week?
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's posted to a YouTube channel and not the website?
Yeah, so the county has a YouTube page that has all of the board meetings on there.
I'll go look for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Oh, I see 9 people. No, okay. There's another person in our attendee pool, but I thought it was Ken for a minute. Okay, well, thank you, Vinod and Sandra, and then we will stay in touch and we will reconvene. And thank you, audience attendee members. I know that was an exciting show.
Very organized.
These are subcommittee meetings, and we will be kind of grappling with these issues as if we were in a small room together doing that. So they are not necessarily intended to be big open committee meetings with public comment periods. I would offer that if anyone has anything they would like to share with us, that I would give an opportunity to do that now. So if you want to raise your hand. And we got no takers. So thank you. We're done. I'm going to stop recording.